Welcome to 10,000 Miles. Today's guest is Courtney Starnes. I met Courtney a few years back. She was in charge of running very big events at a technology solution distributor that I participate in the channel. You know, you often meet people who like to get in front of the crowd, wave their hands in the air, say, look at me, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And they want to take all the credit for anything that goes on around them. Well, Courtney is exactly the opposite. She loves to execute. She likes getting things done. As you'll hear, she anticipates needs before they happen. But she likes to sit in the back and quietly watch the success of others. It's a very rare trait. It's very admirable. What you're going to find out through this episode is it didn't come easy for Courtney. She's been working her keister off for a very long time, always with a smile on her face, always with optimism, and always with a sense of serving others. Let's dive in to Courtney Starnes. Hey, Courtney, welcome to the show today. How are you?
Hi, Vic. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I am super excited to have an opportunity to talk to you today. You have a great story, a great background. I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last few years professionally. And, I want to sort of unpack the Courtney persona today because from the outside looking in, you're a superhero. You're always positive. You're always upbeat. You're an incredible problem solver. And really just, I don't know, for what you do, you're on point. And so for the audience, I met Courtney professionally through what's called the Technology Channel, where she worked for the biggest solution distributor in the country and was in charge of making sure their biggest events, leading a team of people, making sure their biggest events went off without a hitch. And if anybody knows anything about holding events for upwards of, 1,500 to 2,000 people, that's a miracle when that happens. So, hey, Courtney, in your own words, tell the audience who you are.
Well, first and foremost, I am a mother. Work and life are equally a part of everything, but family first. So I am a mother of three. I made three people I'm very proud of. I don't say I have them because I didn't just get them. I made those people.
You made them.
And then of course I'm a professional, right? I am a marketer. I am a chaos controller. I guess you could probably say I'm a little of a farmer with some of the things I've got in my front yard. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I am a person just like every other person on this planet. I just want people to have a great life, me have a great life, and be a good human. So ultimately, that's the goal.
Well, from my seat, you're checking a lot of those boxes already. So congratulations to you.
Thank
So,
you.
Courtney, I've watched you operate in big places, and there's a couple of things that I'd like to work to unpack today. I love the term chaos controller because when you're, working in marketing and sort of event marketing and coordinating the things that I've seen you do through these giant conferences, there's often a lot of chaos, especially with the likes of the people who attend. And anybody who's listening, you know who you are. So, like that, some people run from chaos. You run to chaos. And I can tell you that I have met a lot of people that do one of the other. They either run to it or run from it. There is a personality trait that comes along with the people that run to it. When did you recognize you had that? Where did it come from? How did it start? We want to hear your story because if I can pinpoint anything, that's the difference maker. And when you said this to me the other day, and when we chatted about doing this, and you're like, controlled chaos, I run to chaos, I control it. I was like, there's a full story in that, and I want to know more about it. So when did this start?
I think it started for me personally, quite a long time ago, actually. It's been something that I've always been really good at. I I came into this world, with a 16-year-old mother, single mother. Uh, so I raised myself for the majority of my childhood. And so one of the things that I pride myself in, is that, figure it out, put it in front of me and I figure it out. And I think that's just been, it's grown from a survival mode. My mother had me when she was 16. Then she had my younger brother at 18. And it was a constant environment of chaos. And so
Grew up in it.
I grew up in it, and I thrive in it. I don't get rattled by it. I'm able to solve the problems and pinpoint the issues. And I love how you spoke about attending some of these events and seeing some of the things that happen, whether it's from an attendee or, well, that's really all that you'll see because I've controlled the rest of it. There's so many things that happen that you never saw.
Yeah, sure.
And it's just a simple fact of believing in yourself, knowing that you can do it, and stepping up and taking it. As soon as you start to run, people in the role that I'm in and the experiences that I've had is people will jump on it. And a completely different type of persona gets created. And so I am that person that if you put it in front of me and you tell me no, I will look you square in the face and say, watch me.
Okay, that's fun. So let's go back. What was your first job? What did you do?
My very first job, let me think about that. Oh, my very first job in true fashion was a babysitter. Now,
Okay.
my very first professional job, if you will, was in high school. I finished high school early. I was 16 years old, and I had to get a job to pay for the apartment that I just talked a gentleman into letting me have because I was not 18.
Okay.
I told him it doesn't matter how old you are. I've got jobs. I'll pay the rent. Just let me. I needed out of the environment I grew up in.
Okay.
Knew it wasn't right. So I got a job in the evening working at a real estate and insurance school where people would come in and they would pick up their cassette tape of whichever, because mind you, this is pre-internet.
Yeah.
I'm not as young as I would like to be, Vic. However,
I
so
know
they're
nothing about that, by the way.
right. No computers. This is cassette tapes, and they put
Yeah.
it in their player, and they sit in their pod, and they listen to their lesson for that day with their headphones. So I sat at the reception desk from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. every evening because I went to school during the day, and handed people the tapes that they need for whichever course that they were taking for completion. And the other thing that I did at that same time was I worked for a very top performing real estate agent in the city, and I was one of his assistants. So I think that was my first little slight taste of experience based items
Okay.
because it was my job to ensure that he had a good experience with whatever I did for him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And so I would I would have random tasks that he would ask of me, filing, but it gave me a very real look into the professional life. At the insurance school, I didn't have to dress a certain way. I just showed up and sat behind the desk. However, at the real estate broker's office, you absolutely had to dress the part, and I was surrounded by
Yeah.
professional people and that environment. So those were the first, I had them together. So those were my first jobs when I was 16 years old.
What did you like most about the real estate job?
I loved the fast pace of it, and I love the versatility of it. It was different. He had
What
me do different things.
what state was that in?
Oregon. I was born and raised in
Oh,
Oregon.
okay.
Yeah. I
16, your own apartment.
of Birkenstocks. I do not.
16, your own apartment. That had
Six,
to be some experience. Were you
yeah,
fearful of it? Did you run to it?
I
Yes
was
and
fearful.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
all of the above, because I knew that the environment that I was in, that being out on my own could not be worse than that. And so, at least I would be able to make my own path. And I found a little tiny studio apartment.
Okay.
I worked the 2 jobs, and I negotiated with him to pay my rent every 2 weeks when I got paid, so that way I would make sure that it was done. It took all the money that I had. Um, and so I needed to eat. And in order to do that, because I grew up in poverty with my mother, I knew there was a thing called food stamps. And I went down to the food stamp office and I signed myself up. And I got food stamps so that I could put food in my little kitchen, and my cash could go to paying for my rent. And that's what I
You are an incredible success story.
did.
Just for folks, if I sound dumbfounded, is that I've had such nice conversations with Courtney over the years, some of them very brief, because she's always moving at 5,000 miles an hour, and I only would see her at conferences. Lately, we've talked a little bit more, mostly in preparation for this, about some other things, but I never knew that. I knew you were a scrapper.
I'm a little
You know what I
scrappy.
mean? I knew you were incredibly resourceful. And for anybody listening who's thinking that, you got to start on third base in order to hit a home run, I mean, you could turn the episode off right now and you just know that's not the case. So first of all, congratulations. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to say that to you, because for who you are and what you've accomplished, having come from that, I hope everybody listening just, and the whole purpose I do this podcast, Courtney, is to unpack stories like this, the real stuff, the real grit, the real optimism that comes from people finding their way, and to let people know that success is never overnight. It's never easy. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it and they'd take the easy path. So congratulations. Where did you go from real estate?
Um, I did not. I worked that job to get through high school, as I mentioned, and I paid my bills. And
Yep.
then I went to work. Actually, I moved from Eugene, Oregon after I graduated high school to Bend, Oregon, which is a beautiful little town. I only lived there for a short time, and I went in and took a receptionist job.
Okay.
I very much enjoyed that, but again, it gave me a little bit of a taste of corporate America, um, how to be more professional, right? Because when someone walks into an office, I was the first thing that they saw, and so that was a really great job. After that, I moved back to Eugene, where I was from. Again, I had my own place, and my real first professional, like, career driven job was working for Weyerhaeuser, the lumber company.
Okay.
You see Weyerhaeuser everywhere. And one of the top sales guys needed an assistant, needed a right hand. And so I took that role. And that job actually plummeted me into other professions, other professional jobs, which ultimately at the end of the day leads to where I am today. So it was a wonderful job. I learned a lot. I actually worked for Weyerhaeuser for quite some time. I transferred with them from Oregon to California, and got to a point where there was another really great opportunity for me um, to work for Train Heating and Air, the
Yeah.
manufacturer. So I went from supporting one salesperson to going to Train to supporting four. No, I'm sorry, six.
Okay.
And again, just I got to learn how to deal. I was in my early 20s at this point. I got to deal with It's been the reason, Vic, now that I'm thinking about this, why the technology, why I ended up in technology, because I very much enjoyed working for these engineers. The trained salesmen are engineers by trade.
Okay.
It was a B2B type of environment, and they were producing and drawing and creating the extremely large units for businesses and complexes, not for a home.
Yeah.
And so they're engineers by trade. So I say that tongue in cheek, no offense to any of the guys out there or ladies for that matter. They're kind of nerdy, right? They would
It's
geek out.
okay. I have a pocket protector. It's fine. I slide one in from time to time.
I'm just saying, right? Some of my best buddies in this industry are the sales engineers who I absolutely adore. But my point of that is I really, really got to learn a lot. And that's one of the things that you may or may not ask me what school I went to. And I pride myself that I went to the school of hard knocks.
I graduated from the same place.
Yes, that's my claim to fame.
Yeah.
Figuring it out, learning, keeping your ears open, keeping your eyes open, observing. What are other people doing? Is that right? Is that wrong? Can you make it better? Those types of things. So while I was working with those engineers and those gentlemen and learning very complex plans and situations and all of the things that go into building these multi-million-dollar systems, I really learned a lot from them, and it helped me significantly just with core competencies.
Yeah.
And so I worked there for quite some time, and then completely changed industries and fell into one, I won't lie, one of my most favorite jobs I've ever had. And that was working as a territory representative for United States Smokeless Tobacco.
Okay.
It's Copenhagen, Skoal, that company. And the territory manager is very similar to what a field marketing manager is in our space.
Okay.
You sold and you managed your territory, but then you also do events, right? And you promote the product. And so I very much enjoyed that. So very much. A wonderful company to work for. That was my first remote opportunity, if you will, because I had a car, my territory was vast, and that kind of thing. So from there, during that time of working there, I fell in love, and my now ex-husband, it happens, decided that he wanted to go to paramedic school, and the only one he could go to was in South Dakota.
Okay.
We lived in California.
Okay.
I met him there. And his parents lived in South Dakota, and so it just made the most sense. So I said, I can get another career. I can start another job. I'm not going to find another man of my dreams. I now know that that's not true. But at the time, in my early 20s,
you followed your heart. That's okay. There's no apologizing for that.
So off to South Dakota I went. I did not have a job, and I was not able to transfer. As you can imagine, if you're in South Dakota and you have that same role that I had in California, you're not giving it up. The job market in South Dakota is not as
it's not as robust
as other.
Where in South Dakota?
Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
I don't know the geography. The only thing I know about South Dakota is Sturgis.
So it's across the state. Literally, Sturgis is here. Sioux Falls
east,
is
and Sioux Falls is west. I mean, is east rather, and Sturgis is west.
Correct. It is literally almost as far apart.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I've been to Sturgis twice. Rode both times from Texas to South Dakota on my motorcycle. God's country for sure. I mean, just really, really beautiful. Nothing there where we were, We stayed in Spearfish, I think, which was one town over.
Mm-hmm.
Rented a house. It's funny, people pull out during Sturgis. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to rent my house for $5,000-7,000 a week, and I'll go somewhere and I'll rent it for 2 weeks, and I'll come home, and that's it." And it's a nice opportunity for them. But when 6 of us were there, it was a bigger place, and we were all swapping it. It was a great value for us, and it was cool. We got to get out of Sturgis, but loved it. Did a lot of great motorcycle riding in South Dakota. Is the terrain of Sioux Falls much like the west side, or is it completely different?
No, it's very flat. It's very,
okay.
It's very Kansas.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, you definitely get an advantage for riding if you want to go for a drive or for a ride, being in the western side of South Dakota. But on the flip side, what both sides of the state offer is peace.
Oh,
Sioux Falls is the biggest city in the state. It's now even bigger, of course, than when I lived there. It's still growing, but maybe 200,000 people is the, maybe a little more.
A lot.
But
it's a lot compared to where I live, but it's not a lot. I understand. Yeah.
It's not, but it has everything you need, and it doesn't have crime, right? So when I was there, the average homicide rate was 3 a year, and generally it was like a hunting accident or
wow,
who knew somebody and they got angry. It turned into that.
I'm putting the quotes up. A hunting accident.
Right?
It's funny. The husband and wife went out hunting, and the husband didn't come back.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that happened to me in South Dakota, and I coined this phrase, is that I was South Dakotanized. You don't lock your door. You know who your neighbors are. The blinds on the windows are open. You wave with your one finger wave when you pass people on the road.
So one finger?
Mm-hmm. So one finger wave.
Okay.
And it's really peaceful. It's an amazing place to raise kids. And that is where my first son was born.
Okay.
And we ended up staying there for quite some time. He finished his schooling and then decided to get on with the fire department. And that is how I ended up in Kansas City.
I want to tell you a South Dakota story first, if you don't mind, because you've pinged the memory bank here.
By the way.
No. So one year I was at Sturgis, and we would go on these day rides, and we were going to go through Badlands National Park. And so we left in the morning, and each day we would do probably 350 miles, and do a nice ride, and then make our way back. And this year my brother had met us, so he shipped his bike from the East Coast. We picked it up in some city not far from there, and then he had it for the week we were up there, and we're out on a day ride. My brother, love him to death. He's very picky eater. So we're riding through Badlands National Park, and we see a sign. It says lunch. We're all starving. There's no food out there. There's this little white rickety building, and it was sort of like a and it was in the national park. It was like a general store and trinkets and a refrigerator, but outside there was a guy and a gal cooking burgers on a couple of George Foreman grills. Okay, we're like, yes, we have food. We're eating. This is great. And then a little tray with some fixins, lettuce, tomato, pickles, and it over the thing it says bison burger, $5. So we get in line. You're eating a bison burger. You're not eating. And so my brother, being so picky, looks at me and goes, "What are we eating?" I go, "We're eating this." He goes, "I don't eat bison." I go, "You do now." And so begrudgingly, he ate the bison burger, and he goes, "This is good. This is pretty good." I said, "Now we'll live to fight another day. Let's keep moving on." But anytime I think about being in South Dakota, it brings back a fond memory of a nice trip with my brother. But that one moment you're in the middle of nowhere, and here's food. It's like being in the desert and you come across water and you're like, "I only drink spring water." It's like, I don't drink it. So you
I have people like that attend my events, Vic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Really? No, I'm carnivore. What's with
Well,
this pasta?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, no. So you made your way to Kansas City.
We did. So I will, when I went to South Dakota, I didn't have a job, as I mentioned. The job
Uh-huh.
market out there was very minimal. So I took a job with Schwann's. The
The
Schwann's,
food delivery.
I was a Schwann's man, and
Okay.
they grilled me, Vic, grilled me. It is
Really?
not easy to do, and there were no women that did it.
Okay.
And so I was drilled, and every time they, you know, threw something at me, I came right back with a double up, and ultimately I got the job and killed it. As the local Schwann's delivery guy. Now, the one thing that I will tell you that I remember the most from that experience is that sometimes when I would dig into the freezer to grab your ice cream or your chicken breast or whatever it was actually warmer than the outside.
In the freezer.
Would warm up my hand in the freezer.
Wow.
So that was very fun. But that job, talk about grit. It's 100% commission.
Okay.
Many times when you show up, people are like, "Nope, I'm good this week, thank you," and you move on. People stand and look through the catalog for 45 minutes while you're at their door, freezing and knowing that time is of the essence. I have to get to the next house. You're not the only
Yeah.
guy. So grit, determination, I all of those came into play, and I was absolutely tested.
Okay.
I overcame. It was wonderful. Again, fast forward, I was able to take a job with. I switched roles and took a job with Quest Communications, and
Okay.
that's where I started my telecom journey. Was in South Dakota, in region, as a I don't even remember what my first title was, to be honest with you. I think it was like a marketing manager,
Okay.
uh, because I was a residential seller for
Okay.
residential services via um, door hangers, where you walk neighborhoods and leave
Yeah.
door hangers, um, fairs. I would set up a little booth and welcome people back to Quest or sign them
Mm-hmm.
up services. And
Yep.
then the Chamber of Commerce events, any type of anything where we could put a table out. That was my job. So I would market it.
Sure.
I would, and when we came to Kansas City, I had, through a reorg, been put into a sales role, and I was able to utilize those skills to transfer to be an out of region seller with Quest Communications
Okay.
under the infamous Jeff Waters. I don't know if you've ever met Jeff.
I don't think I have.
So he's a principal owner of Servium,
Okay.
out of Denver, I believe. And he was my director of sales at the time. And ultimately, I worked for Jeff for a few years. And during that time, a field marketing position came available. And he reached out to me and asked me if it was something that I would be interested in. Because of how I was always caring for the team, helping the team with the things that they needed, things that I knew, like in region stuff, for example, that they didn't
Mm-hmm.
know. I was kind of the go-to in the office for assistance. And he saw that in me and thought that I would be amazing as a field marketer.
Nice.
And
What did a field marketer do?
a field marketer did events for end users because we were in region, still selling. I was not in the channel, I was direct.
Mm-hmm.
It supported the sellers with information. So if there were spiffs coming in from the suppliers, I had a little newsletter I created every week with all of the updates about the things that were happening, changes that were going on. And so basically, I supported the sellers from a marketing standpoint. If they needed
Okay.
any content or collateral, if they needed tchotchkes or event items, if they needed an event, all of that kind of stuff. So you're kind of a jack of a jack of all trades.
Okay.
And so it was a really, really great role, and I loved it. And I was with CenturyLink for 15 years.
So wait,
Um,
this was Quest,
yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Quest, and then CenturyLink because they were purchased by
Got it.
Century.
Okay. Yep.
And then they've now since changed to Lumen.
Yep.
Um, that happened after I had ultimately parted ways with the company. But that's how I got into the channel, was through Quest and CenturyLink, and supporting the direct side. I got pulled into the channel for supporting them as
So
well.
when you were at Quest,
Mhm.
Quest was acquired by CenturyLink.
Mhm.
You were still in this role at the
Mhm.
time. Did the role expand? Did it change? Like what happened when the acquisition came through? And by the way, I think there's a little bit of a conversation for us to have around acquisitions, because
Mhm.
when your company gets acquired, it's like nobody knows what's going to go on, and you sort of, I don't want to use this term, but I will, it's surviving, right?
Mhm.
And thriving through that. There's stuff for us to talk about there. So what happened when you found out Quest was being acquired by CenturyLink, and what was happening around you?
So at that time, it was all of the narratives that were coming down from leaderships. Everything is fine. You know, they need us type of
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
mentality.
Common.
Uh, uh-huh. Nobody's going anywhere. So for a little while, it was business as usual.
Okay.
Then I went that, then there was a reorg. And this would have been my second reorg that I had experienced with the company.
Mm-hmm.
And it was terrifying. It was terrifying. Especially when you start to hear about this person leaving or that person leaving. You saw all of the things that they did from being a peer, or they were a leader of you. And sometimes it just doesn't make sense on why you still have a job, but they don't.
It's a bit of
Uh,
survivor's guilt.
it is a bit of survivor's guilt. And
I understand.
so in that time, very scary time, one of the things that ultimately, and I've taken this with me through any other reorg that I've been through, because it's been quite a few, and or, company being purchased. One of the things that I have learned to accept is that there's not a damn thing I can do about it. The decisions are made well before they're announced. And if at any point it could have been influenced, that point has come and gone. And you damn well better be thankful that you're still here.
Yeah. It's a very tough journey. I've been on both sides of that coin. I've been on being acquired
Mm-hmm.
and, sort of, I guess what you're saying is control what you can control. That's something we've talked about on the show with a number of people. I've also been a part of the team that has done the acquisition and have been in the room where we're making these decisions on how it's going to go on. And you know what? Yes, having a job at the end of the day is much better than not having one. But if you're a human with any feelings at all, you're forced into this robotic analysis, and you are making decisions on people's lives and journeys. I was never really, I was good at it by execution because we just had to do it, but I was emotionally bad at it. And even when it wasn't an acquisition, when, sometimes you'd get the knock, hey, it's numbers are down, we didn't make our number, 10% riff.
Right.
And then you got to decide who's not, if you got to lay off, and then you're digging through the books, you're trying to find other saves. And sometimes the organization's like, no, we don't want other saves. It's got to be people, because the other saves are going to sneak back into the organization. People won't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult. And I feel for anybody who loses a job, it's a very tumultuous time in life. what I have learned, and I think the most important thing to do during that time is to not retreat,
Correct.
is to stand up straight. It's to pull your shoulders back. It's to breathe. It's to stay focused on what's ahead and not what's behind you. Yeah, it's the only thing you can do, because there will be another opportunity. Your bridge between where you're standing and where you need to be could be a short one. It could be a little bit longer. It could be long. The bridge could have a few planks out along the way, but you have to stay focused on where you're going. And it's not easy. It's not easy. I know, I have a friend who just went through a transition. He got a notice at the the middle of October. He starts his new job Monday. Very, very fortunate, right? And he calls me. He's like, Pep, I'm the luckiest guy in the entire world. He said, I got a new job. I'm down 40 pounds. Who's doing better than me? And I'm like, I said, you are doing great. He goes, I just can't even believe it. And I said, hey, the world has a way of working around you, that there are things you're in control of and not. And he landed a better job, from a compensation perspective, doing exactly what he wants to do.
I love that.
And in a adjacent industry from the one he was in. So he has a lot of relevant knowledge, but it's not exactly the same type of company, but his experience is going to carry him forward. So really I'm long-winded about this, and I'm sorry, but I love this topic because a lot of people will find themselves in transition. And I think the value here of in transition, well, rather than me say it, what do you think the value? You've started young, you're a scrapper, have come such a long way and have come through it with a tremendous smile and on your face and a good heart about things. These experiences had to have molded you. And what would you leave behind for people, and say, if you're in a transition, like, how do you handle it?
First of all, everything that you said was right. Put your head up, put your shoulders back. But another thing that I like to remind people of is to know your worth. And if you don't know it, or you can't grasp that concept, find it.
Yeah.
Because what that does is it helps get your confidence back that you may have lost by not understanding why you no longer are with said company. And that, like I said, knowing your worth helps get it's a ripple effect of positive for yourself. Yeah. Also, going outside of the box. Don't just stay in the same exact path that you've been on. You're smart. Expand. Just like your friend did. He was in one industry, and you know what? Now he's making himself even more valuable down the road. God forbid, should something happen, by learning another industry.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of stuff. But people fear. They have fear, and fear is paralyzing. And so if you know your worth and you understand your value, your confidence comes up and that fear dissipates. And you will apply for that job that maybe you wouldn't have, or you will pick that shirt that's not a color that you would ever wear, right? And that's the kind of, and then when you wear that shirt that you thought was not okay, everybody compliments you on it, right? So
unless it's a brown shirt and you're me.
Yeah, no, don't.
Because once a year I buy brown clothes, and I wear them once and I donate them, and then a year goes by and I go, I think I'm going to like some brown. Let me go get something that's brown, and then I wear them once and I donate them. I'm horrible. I'm just not, and even my kids and my wife will say, oh, go look in Dad's closet. Black, blue, white, gray. Black, blue, white, gray. That's it.
I have a yellow dress that I bought on a whim that I thought was it was very much out of my comfort zone. It's bright yellow. And the first day I wore it, I was scared to death. I'm like, everybody is looking at me. And they were, because they were complimenting me. They loved it. And so sometimes, I know that sounds so cliche, but sometimes you have to take a risk, go outside your comfort zone, And if you're in a situation where you are without a role, then no time like the present.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I'm going to take us back a couple of steps. I feel like, I won't even say it. It's political. I was going to say, I feel like Donald Trump, I'm doing the weave, but, it is what it is. But I bring us back. So you transitioned from Quest to the CenturyLink card. There was a lot of ups and downs, and friends were, no longer with roles. I understand the survivor's guilt. And in one, breath, you exhale and you're relieved. And in the other one, you sigh because you feel it for your friends. And that I the thing that I used to hate about having been on either side of that is, you're impacted, you got to deal with it. But on the time where you're part of the team that has to make a decision on where it's going, like you go home and my wife would look at me, go, how'd it go today? And I would say, oh, it sucked. Why? I go, because, so-and-so had to go home and tell their husband or wife or somebody that they were let go today. And yeah, they have some severance, but it's not a
Yeah.
lifetime, you know?
No, no.
And so how did the CenturyLink thing go for you? You were there quite a long time. I mean, did you have different roles? What'd you do there?
I did. CenturyLink, now Lumen, is a wonderful company to work for. I mean, they are an OG, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's in the channel, whether it's just in the direct side, whatever it is, if you're wondering, they have done it. They have built it, they have done it. And it was a really, really amazing growth journey for me. I was a field marketing manager when we were purchased, when we were acquired. We went through the reorg, and I believe everyone on my team, including my boss, was let go except for myself and one other person. So there's a lot of uncertainty. We got through it. Like my teammate and I said, the only thing that we know is that we just got to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And as things continue to come to light and things get figured out, we'll get more direction. So I was actually at a meeting, I think it was a planning session in Breckenridge, Colorado, where I met one of the most amazing women who also worked for CenturyLink. And her name is Valerie Berezik. She's now the VP of Marketing and Intermedia. She's in the channel. She there's three people that I attribute my professional growth to. Jeff Waters is one of them. Valerie is the second. And you'll soon learn the third. Might be somebody you're familiar with.
Okay.
And Valerie was my manager. As we grew together in the field marketing role, we started doing more events. And we worked a lot with the alliances side of the team. And we also worked a lot with creating, and this is again still on the direct side. So we're doing end user customer events and field marketing, supporting the sales teams throughout the United States. I was in Central, being and we were working underneath the leadership of Tina Smith at the time, and this new guy comes in to run the channel at CenturyLink. I could have cared less, Vic, because I was not a fan of the channel.
Yeah.
While I was a salesperson under Jeff Waters at CenturyLink, I fought with the infamous Jim Glacken, who, by the way, is one of my most and dearest friends. I love him. But at the time, I thought, what is this shady? Who are these people trying to steal my customers and take my revenue and my commissions? I was very, very salty. I saw the organizational announcement for this guy coming in to run the channel, and I really did not give two thoughts about it because I was on the direct side. It didn't matter, and I was supporting my sellers. Well, I get a call from Valerie saying that we need to go help with an event. With the person coming in to run the channel, you can understand that the channel organization at the time was very slim, and they needed help with this event. And so, of course, Tina raised her hand and said, I know exactly who can help you, but they're on the direct side. They said, that's fine. They can, cross over to assist with this. Well, it was the Ryder Cup in Minnesota. And I believe the year was 2016.
Okay.
So Valerie and I jump in and we assist. I'm in Central, so naturally I helped with that. And I arrive on site a couple of days early, and we're going through all the things, and in walks the new head of CenturyLink, the channel for CenturyLink, Mr. John Delosier.
Yep.
And I immediately gravitated towards him. There was something about his presence, his leadership, his persona. It was just very, I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn from him. And of course, I was there executing this event, which I didn't want to do because in my mind, I was going to be damned if I was going to support that channel, all those people. And however, of course, I did my job and it was fantastic. And because I did that, and because I went outside my comfort zone, Vic, and because I went outside the box, I met to this day, one of the most amazing leaders that I have ever had an opportunity to work with, which was John. And he...
By the way, you're explaining a lot to me right now because, I spent decades in corporate America, and I ran companies that had lots of locations, and we'd need networks and make changes. And I knew Steve Gerhardt since the late 90s. And when he was worked for a telecom company. In 2001, when he started D&M, I started consuming services through the channel. Right. And the thing I always had to battle all along the way on behalf of Steve is, if we had a big account, they would go, oh, no, that's a protected account. And then I would have to get on the phone and say, hey, listen, if you want this deal, unless we do it through D&M, I'm not doing it. I need this level of support. You guys are going to go away. And when I need a problem, I'm going to be in a long line, and this guy's going to mow down paths for me. And, I never like the battle of inside and outside or channel and direct just boggled my mind. What used to really make me nuts when I was on the other side of the desk is when I'd already be, let's say, with a particular provider, and then all of a sudden on the door, and I'm through the channel, and then all of a sudden they would knock, and it's direct side. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Well, we can get you a better deal. I said, you can't. Number one, we know pricing's pricing. Number two is I don't even understand why you're here. And yeah, and they say, what do you mean? And I would say, do you think the CEO of this company gives two hoots about you moving beans from one side of the P&L to the other? Like, go find a freaking Verizon customer and get that network, Mr. Other Network. It's like, and then here I'm like schooling them. And I'm like, I know it impacts you and your P&L, but the top of the house, it's net neutral. Go fish in another pond.
Not funny. So funny. And that's, so unfortunately, that stigma, to your point, in 2001, it took a long time for the large suppliers or vendors, whatever you want to call them, to be able to find that balance to share. Right. Mm-hmm. And obviously now they work cohesively together. And I also had a false understanding of the channel and what it was, but it was my experience at the time.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, I met John, and after we finished and executed that event, he asked Tina, Valerie, and myself to move over to the channel and support his organization from a field marketing and marketing standpoint. And we did. And I have not looked back since. So I have had and met the most amazing people over here. And I have learned so much. The channel is not just an organization or an entity or industry. It's a community.
It's a community.
The people that have been
It really
here,
is.
the friends that I have met, I mean, it's amazing. I can't even begin to explain how much I have learned and grown and the amazing conversations I've had sitting down with you, sitting down with Steve, sitting down with Joe Monaco, Trisha Ward, like a lot of the OGs of the industry, but even a lot of the new guys that are coming in and hearing their stories about how they got started. It's amazing, amazing community. I don't even want to call it an industry. And I'm very thankful that I've been given the opportunity to support from both the supplier side and a TSD side, the channel partners.
Yeah.
Because I was fortunate enough to get to see it from both sides, and I've kind of always been like the flower delivery lady, right? They're always happy when they see me because they know I come with really cool things. I'm not selling anything. I'm not asking for anything. I come to give them an experience. And something I'm going to tell you, Vic, that might be a little controversial.
Okay. I don't mind controversy.
Right. Is that I've been doing CX before CX was cool.
Okay.
Customer experience has been at the core of what I do and what I deliver since I started doing events and account-based marketing, supporting my sellers, whether it's an end user customer that's my customer, or whether it's my sellers it's my customer, or the sales partners like yourself. My most best, amazingest, all the words that don't go together, outcome is that you guys have an amazing experience. You walk away with a smile on your face because what happens is you don't even know it. It circles back to the company. It doesn't circle back to me specifically. It circles back to, hey, honey, you know when we went to that Top Chef dinner with CenturyLink? That was so great. Hey, uncle, thank you for taking me to that Taylor Swift concert with CenturyLink. 8x8, all of those things. That was so amazing. And
or if you're me, hey, do you remember when you were in Greenville and you got your finger stuck in the door like an idiot and almost chopped it off? And Courtney has a paramedic family background and was able to glue my finger back together so I didn't lose the tip of it. Another memorable experience, by the way.
Right? And so you had an amazing experience. But the thing that happens is that it ultimately, it's not, is it because of me personally? Not necessarily. I contributed to it. However, it comes full circle back to the company, and it goes back to the very core. And one of the important quotes that I continuously say that I learned, one of the things I've learned from John DeLozier, is that business is personal. Business is personal.
Yeah, it's relationships.
It doesn't matter how great the food is at the restaurant. If the service is crap, you're not going back. That's
for sure.
Right? And so, you hurt your finger. I happen to know how to fix it. One, you're a great guy. And two, the means. Let's make it happen. There's no reason to hit an urgent care, right?
And you're like, okay, listen. All right, here's what we need. All right, I need some glue. I need some tape. Blah, blah, blah. Let's wrap it up real quick. And I said, oh, there's a CVS right down the street from, and this was like right before dinner. I said, this is fine through dinner. Or maybe I'm going to run down. I forget the order, but you're like, we need this, we need that. And I go, you're running around 1,000 directions. I got the supplies. I said, you're the execution. I'm the supplies. And I come back and I text you. I go, I got the stuff. You're like, okay, let's get to it. Zip, glue, clean, boom. But I come back. I'm like, oh, and you know what? I don't have a scar. And for those wondering like how bad this was a metal door that had a very thick, ornate metal handle, And I guess the handle was too big for the door because they had to cut out a little lip in the door frame to get it to fit through. It's like a dumb thing. And I had my hand at that spot and the door was super heavy and went. And I literally thought I lost the entire tip of my finger. It was nasty.
It was
But
not a
I,
paper cut situation.
no. This was no paper cut. But I was okay about it. And my wife makes fun of me and says I'm a bad patient. God forbid Vic has a hangnail, you would think he's in labor, but that's not really true. I
No,
was actually okay.
I was so
No,
good.
no. It was fine. Hey, let's go sideways a little second here. You got this pasture.
I do.
It's out in front. You live on 5 acres.
I
Who's that
do.
woman? Who's that woman, the prairie woman out there? Was a show out there about this woman who, she bakes and stuff, and her husband and kids go out and do the work. I think you're the opposite. I think you got people baking, and you're out doing the work here. Just, I saw a picture of Chico. I saw a picture of Pedro. Like, tell people a little bit about some of your personal hobbies.
So, fun fact, uh, I've been told that I am a boy. Uh, I'm not. She, her, all girl. But I think this just comes from my upbringing and my determination and my grit. I'm not afraid to get dirty. I'm not afraid to figure something out or try something new. So yes, I have a home that I purchased in 2021 on 5 acres. And it's a beautiful ranch. It when I walked through it was a time warp to 1984, as some of the old farm ranch houses are.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing was I could see past the cosmetic things that it had, the wallpaper and the really, really great flooring options. It was still here.
Okay.
And so I bought it and I got a great deal on it because other people couldn't see past that. And
Okay.
structure's good. So with that, I have spent 3 years. It took me a year to get into this home because I started tearing it apart. And when I say
Wow.
I tearing it apart, I started tearing it apart.
Okay.
At 5 o'clock, 5:30, I would drive out to the house and I had my tool belt and my boots and my jeans and my music and my pry bar in my hand and started, taking out what needed to come out. And I've had a little bit of help along the way
Yep.
with people who would take like a cash only job, for example, and come at the night or the weekend. So it helped me to save money, but also I learned because I would work alongside them. But ultimately, it took a year and I got into it. It's still not done, but now it's like little finishing things. Still a little bit of painting left to do. But with that, I also put in an electric fence in my front yard, literally.
Okay.
And I have absolutely beautiful bay quarter horse, one of the cutest. Of course, I'm biased, and ultimately they kind of all look the same, Vic. But
No.
little
The
donkey.
cutest donkey, right? No. Courtney was showing me pictures of the donkey Pedro before we started recording today. And when the picture popped up, I go, it's the best looking donkey I've ever seen, because I told you there was a fell down the road here about a mile here that had, I don't know, 10 or 12 of them. They had a lot of donkeys. And it was cool because this guy's house was like a very much Spanish architecture, and the fence around it was very Spanish architecture. I mean, so this little spot where he had this old architecture and these donkeys, for a minute, it was like a throwback, like you were somewhere else in time and in place. His donkeys were nasty. They were not as good looking as Pedro, that's for sure. And with your permission, I'm going to flash while the episode goes. I'm going to flash Pedro up on the screen here. Be great.
he is pure joy. He brings the funniest little quirks and mannerisms. He I will watch him walking behind Chico, and I something is goofy, and I look closer, and he has a hold of his tail, and so he's riding onto his tail as Chico's and he's the most patient horse. He just looks back, really. It's like big brother. It's an amazing relationship that they have, and they are friends. They are never far from each other. And that was my sole purpose of purchasing him, was to be a companion.
Hmm.
Chico horses are very social animals. They like to have people or other animals. And unless you have another horse, the next best thing is um, another equine, which donkeys fall into that category, or a goat. Uh, and goat, I was not dealing with a goat.
Okay.
No goats. So,
How come?
oh,
Tell me why no goats? Because I was thinking about getting a goat.
oh yes. So goats, oh Vic, goats are stubborn. Goats
Really?
that you don't think they're very smart, but they are extremely smart, and they will get
Okay.
of
So
whatever you,
maybe a little donkey.
maybe a mini donkey.
How
Yeah,
much maintenance is a little donkey?
he is not literally zero to none. So obviously in the wintertime he needs hay because
Yeah.
grass dies. And then he gets his the farrier comes, right, to
Yep.
to do his feet.
Yep.
No shoes. He doesn't need shoes. He just needs his
Okay.
nails, like a
Okay.
person. It's 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
We're-
Every 6 to 8 weeks.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
And then otherwise he has to, get on a worming schedule, a dewormer, which is twice a year. And that's
Okay.
something you can actually buy at the Tractor Supply and do yourself.
Interesting.
So, yeah, he got here just about a year ago. He was just a couple months old. Um,
Wow.
he eats grass in the summertime, and I do give him treats. And
Okay.
then otherwise, farrier comes every 6 to 8 weeks, and I just thought, hey, for everybody. And that was another reason why I got a mini, is because I wouldn't have to double my hay that I
Got
purchased
it.
because he's little.
He's
He's just
tiny.
a champ, but his belly's only so big. So
That's so funny. It's great. Well, I have a little piece of property in West Texas. I might have a friend who's going to move out there on it. And clearly, I wouldn't have any animals out there if we're not out there all the time. But he's got a great dog, and he may need a little something else out there. So we were thinking goats, but maybe a donkey is a better move because
yeah.
we'd love to have the donkey out there. It'd be a lot of fun.
And it's fun when you get a baby because then you get to help shape their character.
Yeah.
Because they can be mean, they can be stubborn. I mean, he still has those natural instincts, but
Sure.
he is, uh, he interacts with people every single day. He doesn't bite, he doesn't kick at you. He walks up to the gate. I hug him all the time, and rub his ears and rub his little bum and his belly and all the things, kind of like you do with a dog, right? You
Yeah.
just touch him all the places. And then he's got a horse that is just so cool. He's learned a lot from him as well. So if you've got somebody who will be out there all the time, I say go for it.
That's great. So we touched on a little personal there. Thank you for letting me do that. I want to go into back into professional mode here, and I want to go in sort of summary mode. Right. So let's play back the past hour. And first of all, thank you for your openness. Thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability. You have an amazing story, um, beyond what I even thought. My only regret having you on tonight is I didn't have you on 6 months ago. So, and I could talk to you for the next 3 hours, but I'm learning that there's a sweet spot for the length of these episodes. So I
So
want to pull back to professional here a little bit. So tell us a story about one of the biggest events you've run, and maybe one of the biggest challenges you came across during an event or a time. And I'm sure there are many. I'm sure there are many, but if one comes to mind we'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear about it and hear about how you handled it. Is anything bubble up to the top?
Well, I will say one of my most memorable and favorite events that I've ever done was actually with CenturyLink. And at the time, this is pre-COVID, pre budget mania, right? As we all, what I call it now. We just had a little bit more flexibility than we do now, and it all works itself out. However, I did a Top Chef and Taylor Swift concert series.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. We hit 10 cities where Taylor Swift was in concert. And
Okay.
we hit 10 cities with a Top Chef from the show. He didn't win the show, but he was on the show. And actually, to this day, I believe is still the chef for the Today Show.
Oh, wow.
His name is Ryan Scott. He's amazing. And those events, it wasn't, of course, it was what we got to do, but it was the most memorable and best experiences for the folks that got to attend.
Okay.
One of the things that we did, which not a lot of people do, even to this day, and I still fight for it if I can make it work, is a +1. And you might be, what does that mean? Instead of just inviting you, Vic, to a Top Chef dining experience, I'm inviting you and your wife. And why, you might ask, why would you do that, Courtney? Like, she's not going to buy anything from you. You're right. But do you know how much street cred, Vic, that you're going to get for bringing her along? Because how many times have you had to tell her that she can't go? And so now, not only do you get to go, you're going to have a wonderful time. You get to bring her, share this experience together, and then talk about it. And you will be the man of the hour at home, which then you, conscious or unconsciously, contribute to CenturyLink for giving you that opportunity.
Because business is personal.
Because business is personal.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Hey, a funny story about, bringing the wives. I have gone to so many events in my career. And when I worked at big companies, Lehman, Bear, Chase, there was never a +1 unless it was, a small, intimate thing that somebody on the leadership team was putting on.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredibly rare. It was always just employees. When I get to the channel, it's a big mixer, right? But, when we go to the big events like Channel Partners or Channel Connect or Special Forces or something like that, the +1's always is encouraged. It's never a big issue there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the first few years that I was in the channel, I went to these events and I never brought my wife. And Steve's wife, Lori, would go to these events. And my wife would say, why does Lori go to these events and I'm not going to these events? And I'm like, I go, trust me, this is not like, you don't want to be at these events. They're not what, like my schedule is full. And so she was like, okay, whatever. So not last March, but the one before that, I go, hey, we're going to Channel Partners in Vegas. Would you like to come? Oh, you're just saying that. You just, I'm kind of salty about, no, I would love for you to come. But I break out this Excel sheet and I go, but just let me show you my calendar. Right. And Lori would love for you to come because she's in the same boat that you'll be in. And yes, at least you'll have some things to do. So the short story is, Courtney, is that we got there on Sunday. We had a nice dinner that night with 8 or 10 people, not quite very intimate. And we got back to the little gambling, went back to the hotel, went to bed. I woke up the next morning at 6:30 and did not see her again until Wednesday night's dinner.
I know that's right.
And it was like, boom, 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 boom. We had all these meetings, this stuff, this provider, this there, all these other things. And she was like, wow, you're like nonstop. And a lot of times I'd get back to the room 10:30, 11 at night. I'm just exhausted.
Oh, B.
I didn't have a minute. And then she's out gambling with the ladies, and she comes in at like 1. I'm in there. I'm like, tired, sleeping. Then I wake up and she's sleeping. So now she knows, and she's always welcome to come. She's come, you met her. She came on the
Yes.
TPC trips. And, but, she understands now that, these things sound like big parties, and they certainly can be if that's what you turn them into. But if you're making the best out of them and you're making them productive, it's great. And it is nice, by the way, when they do an excursion or something with a +1, you get to have that experience. And I do recognize that the budgets are tightening, but I'm hopeful things will be changing in 2025, and we can start doing things a little bit bigger again. Courtney, I had an amazing time talking to you tonight, and we're going to have a lot of great clips that come from this episode. But more importantly, this episode is full of inspiration for people who think they can't. What is it? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times you just, with positive mindset, determination, belief in yourself. I'll pull you back to the top of the episode about recognizing your value. Boy, that's something that everybody needs to hear. And I don't care if I do 5,000 of these episodes, every single one of them, somebody needs to talk about recognizing your value. And when your value is not being recognized where you are, go somewhere else.
That's right. It's okay.
It's okay.
You
it
don't
really
have.
is.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, give Chico and Pedro and the others a little pat on the nose for me. Thank you so much for coming on this episode tonight. I know the audience is going to enjoy get to know you a little bit more. So thanks so much.
Thank you for the opportunity, Vic, so much.
You're welcome. We'll talk soon.